Thank you everyone for showing up today. I appreciate it. Let's get started. My name is Chris Wojak. I'm a senior program managing architect at Symcor. I'm kind of responsible for some of our strategic initiatives, ensuring that we bring in the right technologies or have the right technologies in place to meet our business needs at Symcor. I usually have forward thinking, like 4 or 5 years out type of thinking, see what we can do in the future type of stuff. Here today to talk to you about security and data analytics for next-gen analytics. Is actually an award-winning platform that we have here. We came in second place in the world with what we've kind of designed and came up with. So we're going to start off the presentation with some background, some of the use cases, some of the business problems that we've had and the challenges that we've kind of overcome. And then we'll get into the kind of the technical aspects of what it takes to implement security and data governance. So about Symcor. Symcor was formed over 20 years ago by the 3 largest financial institutions in Canada. Symcor is the leading business processing and client communications provider in Canada, supporting major financial institutions, insurance, telecommunications, and even in some cases, retail. Symcor is essentially now on a digital transformation journey where we are not only growing our business in the digital and data services area, but leveraging key strategic partners like Hortonworks, Informatica, and even Voltage from a format preserving encryption perspective, FPE for short form, and is helping us drive innovation, enterprise-grade solutions, and data governance to provide lineage end-to-end. It's really important to be able to see where your data is at all times. You know, I mean, what's changing essentially in the marketplace today? One of the things that we see from our clients or even potential clients is this shift to digital channels. Everybody's essentially converting from paper or existing processes going to digital. As part of that journey, as our clients are going down there, we're seeing fraud is growing a problem, not only in incidentals, but in complexity. In Canada, fraud essentially is becoming almost like a $2 billion problem. And with this is we see an opportunity to offer leading digital and data services to detect and prevent fraud, current and even emerging. One of the key success stories to this whole thing has been our partnership with Hortonworks. They have been with us step in out, trying to help us deliver on our vision to provide industry-leading solutions to drive this digital and data services for our customers. Our primary business initiatives essentially is what I kind of just spoke to, is we see our digital and data services offering as one of our key business initiatives as we see a great potential with the move to these digital channels as our clients move to that. As part of that, Symcor has essentially launched Canada's Canada-wide, we'll call it, fraud platform, leveraging the next generation of machine learning, AI, for the purposes of fraud detection and prevention. What were some of our challenges? For 2018, this should not be a big surprise, is one of our most significant challenges is in the delivery of digital and data services in a manner that protects client data. On this journey, we worked with our data governance privacy teams to come up with and design a comprehensive data governance policy to empower the ethical use of data for fraud detection and prevention. That is kind of 50% of the solution. I can't get into too much of the policies or what we have or the gating processes in place, but I can definitely go over the technology that it takes to deliver on that. With Hortonworks, Informatica, and Voltage, we were able to provide these industry-leading solutions that allowed us to realize our comprehensive data policies through technology solutions. Gluing it all together and how it was able to be glued together, we'll call it, and the interactions was very smooth and easy. And that kind of made the world of a difference for us in meeting our goals and our requirements. Things, I kind of touched on this a little bit already, what the platform had to deliver. Essentially, data insights for fraud insights, essentially, from networking data, from disparate sources across different avenues, from anywhere from real-time to batch to various clients, sending data to Symcor. Another important thing is to be able to collaborate on this data, be able to surface results, signals of potentially something happening or something happened to our clients, so they can collaborate and review and see if we can take that and feed it back into the engines and back into as a feedback loop into it to make it better for next time. Industry-leading data governance and security is kind of the main theme here. It had to deliver that. Ease of integration, ensuring that all the products and the complete technology stack work very well together was very important. And obviously to process large amounts of data, it is big data after all. One of the next slides we're going to get into, let's talk about where we play and the value that we could potentially bring from a use case perspective. So when you look at a typical organization, a typical entity, a typical person, you're limited into the view that you can get into. So if you take a customer as an example, your customer, you can only basically see whatever business they do with you. You can kind of see what's kind of happening. But it's very limited in terms of pattern, let's say first-party fraud, what else is going on. So this is where we kind of come in into play, and what our offering is to our clients up in Canada is essentially Symcor's digital and data services uncovers the network, the patterns across. So if everybody is able to send us this data, and we're able to provide these insights across the data sources into a single pane of glass, not only ethically, but protect the client's data, all at the same time, it is an overwhelming sell to them saying, yeah, we're kind of interested in that, to be able to see this all across various different sources. This isn't necessarily a pipe dream. This is actually physically starting to happen now. In terms of the solution, the main driver for data analytical platform at the foundation is essentially the Hortonworks Hadoop cluster, the complete stack that is essentially that we've deployed. Kind of the key features into making this all happen is how do we do secure data onboarding? And we'll go over the process and what it takes essentially, how I define how you do secure data onboarding. And there's two key things that we need to deliver. Part of this is fraud research and services for it as well, fraud prevention services. And essentially what fraud research means is data science. Having data scientists go in and ethically and to have the client's data protected is to still apply models and drive insights and see if they can essentially come up with new models. But then have a quick way, a cost-effective way to build services on the stack. And then data governance, that lineage end-to-end, and we'll go over how that actually gets implemented. So one of the next slides that we'll be talking about is actually data ingest and everything that it takes to make that actually happen. It's quite complicated. So, data ingest. So one of the most important things is that from a security-first mentality that we have is we kind of looked at the stack and said, what does it take to just be secure? First, we just looked at the security model. So for example, we do things like we pull data in versus pushing it in. When we actually pull that data in, we then apply things like format preserving encryption to that data. We actually validate it before we just store it in our actual data lake. We validate and protect it. The power of format preserving encryption is that if you take, for example, a credit card number, to the naked eye, to the person viewing, has no idea that that's an encrypted value. It works in legacy systems, it works in modern systems. It passes through, and no one knows that it's technically encrypted. It's a useless number to anybody who were to take that number and steal it or do something with it. Once it's in there, we store it at the data lake level, but then we also protect the access. We do not have anybody in the company who actually has full-time access to our cluster or a data analytical platform. Using things like Ranger with Kerberization and Active Directory and linking all those together, what we're able to offer is on-demand access and time-boxed access. So what that essentially means is someone has to go request access first, get it approved, and then through role-based access and Active Directory, they get access to that system for a period of time, whether it be to set up data ingestion, whether it be for fraud research, or for services. Those were all kind of the security stuff that we had to go through. On top of that, to ensure not only for performance, but to ensure that there's no data leakage in any way, shape, or form, we had to set it up in a multi-home private network just for Hadoop, which is difficult to manage considering the fact that you need to manage public IPs that are external facing and ones just for the cluster to communicate when running jobs or analytical jobs or however you want to define that as. And then there was Atlas. So during that, for example, data onboarding, we talked about how we pull the data in, apply format preserving encryption, but then we also tag that data in Atlas automatically. There's no user intervention with it. Essentially all happens, and then we leverage, for example, strategic partners like Informatica, Big Data Management, to create that workflow for us and to control every step in that process. So that's essentially all the things that we had to go through for data governance and security from a data ingest perspective. Fraud research. Well, we need to enable data scientists to go in and look, but we need to protect the client's data, and we need to have data governance to know what's going on, but also a slew of tools we required part of the stack to gain proper data insights and to provide value to our data scientists, like providing sampling of data. So essentially, we talked about the ingest. So the ingest now is in the data lake. By also leveraging things like Informatica's tool set, Big Data Management and Relay 360, depending on what the data scientist is asking for, we are able to go to the data lake, extract that data from multiple sources, apply entity matching, cleansing, data quality, to ensure the matches are as accurate as possible. With FPE, we also technically the data is de-identified because nobody knows. But you can still match on it. Because Chris encrypted in FPE is Chris regardless of how many times Chris has been encrypted. It'll always be the same encrypted value. You just don't know what it is. So what we do there is we have that whole pipeline in place, and then we create that result set into their own little play area for data scientists to go wild, apply their models, using things like IBM's data DSX for data science modeling, applying different models to that data set effectively while still protecting the data. In other ways, we can also the results and get collaboration from our clients or clients' data scientists who want to jointly work with us on a particular model or data science project. Next one is service delivery. Very similar to the fraud research, but now we're essentially creating a service that's essentially going to be running, whether it be by hour, on demand, or scheduled job from a batch perspective is data gets automatically extracted from the data lake to what's needed. It goes through the Informatica processing from an ETL and Relay 360 entity matching purposes. I mean, the power of the network data set is provide insight that or really you can't see on your own if you're a single entity. And then we surface those either through APIs or web portals. But the power, when I talked about the lineage and the encryption and so forth, is that throughout the life cycle, the data is always fully encrypted. It is, I think, for 2018, far superior than transparent encryption or disk encryption, because there's more of a physical control than actual security at the data level. Here is, throughout this whole pipeline that you see here, the data is fully encrypted, except for, let's just say in the web interface or in a portal, somebody who say, I want to see this data. Client wants to see their own data or see that signal that could be of value to them or they see some value in it. They request to see that data. So only that row or that set of aggregated data that they're allowed to see once it's approved, do we only unencrypt that row or that set of data in memory only? At disk, in the databases, HDFS, in between, it's all fully always encrypted, never unencrypted. It's always fully protected. You need to ask to be able to see it. There is no way to basically see it in the clear without you getting permission to see it. Those were all the things that we had to go through to deliver actual production-grade, enterprise-grade service to our customers that they felt comfortable with kind of networking the data in an ethical manner for fraud detection and prevention services. Part of that, and then from a technology stack perspective, this is kind of what the technology stack at a very, 30,000-foot level looks like, is that from an Informatica perspective, sends all the jobs onto the Hadoop cluster, which is completely separate from, let's say, the Informatica Big Data Management servers. It goes through all the security models. Everything's run in Yarn across the board. Service accounts or people who want to execute on this, it's all on demand. No one has full-time access to this cluster. That's the beauty of it. Atlas is there for privacy, data governance, product to look at the metadata to see what's there, where's all the data, what's going on. They have that insight into it. We have the policies and everything in HPE stored separately outside the cluster, so anyone who looks at what encryption is applied to what fields, An example, credit card versus name and address. It's all secure there. One of the other things that we had to do is not only from a performance but security is we also had dedicated Active Directory servers set up for it because it's quite chatty in terms of requesting Kerberos tickets and the authentication model with it. So we completely locked it down where it's essentially a mini company here is what we set up with this Hadoop cluster. And then everything gets serviced to things like Qlik. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with a BI tool like Qlik. Also similar is Tableau. So we're able to surface to our clients, they can examine in near real time any signals, anything that's happening that's relevant to them and their needs. And then we're leveraging also Relay 360 for entity matching from Informatica for essentially creating a KYC or single point of view on an entity or an individual for fraud detection and prevention purposes. I did kind of talk really fast. I'm not sure anybody has any questions or comments. I did kind of go maybe too fast through that. I apologize if I did. How do I do, sorry? Cleansing? So some of the data cleansing and so forth happens a lot of times, or even data quality happens before FP is applied in the pipeline. So then when we do it, we know it's good. There's also a thing that what we also subscribe to, Informatica has is, well, everybody kind of does this, but here's the difference is, everybody's data quality. Everybody will tell you there's a problem with the data. It's like, I think everyone's got that tool. Like, it isn't anything new in the industry. However, what Informatica does is, that's really great for us, is that it attempts to correct the address or correct information. So for example, let's just say we get some bad data, we'll call it, we get a street and name. Well, it's able even to enhance that data by filling in the state, the postal code, zip code, geo-based coordinates to enhance that data for us, which is the kind of the secret sauce to some of this stuff to making it work, because automatically, without user intervention, we can enhance that data, the data quality of it, through a very reliable source. No, it happens all in the cluster from a data security and governance. That's why I kind of say we have to pull the data in first. While we pull it in, nobody has credentials outside the cluster to essentially connect to it to make it safe. By doing that pull inside, using Informatica workflow, big data management, we're able to create essentially an assembly line that first, parse the file, validate it, apply data quality, apply, for example, format encryption based on the policies. That's where the data governance policies come in, where I really can't talk too much about those because they're really kind of the secret sauce that we offer, and the gating process and the authorization behind it all. And then we'll write it into the data lake where we use, again, big data management to always go to the source, to that raw data for data integrity purposes as well, to go grab that for whatever service we are providing or for a research project. So we're always going back to the same source to get the data. Does that make sense? Answer your question? Sorry, who's next? Or anyone else? Oh, sorry, go ahead. No, we are, so we use Active Directory, Microsoft Active Directory, and then for a single sign-on SSO for, let's say, Ambari, internally we use ADFS, or externally we use WSO2 for our identity management for single sign-on. Anyone else? Okay. Well, guys, thanks for coming out. Hopefully this was of use to you. If you have any questions or you want to talk to me later, I'll make myself available for you guys. Thank you.